It's time for Lean In with Dr. Marlin on CCFM 107.5, unpacking the connection between spirituality and academia.
Yes, good evening, family. My name is Phineas Waha Sebatsane. Welcome to Leaning In with Dr. Marlin. Dr. Marlin, Tuesday, we are back again.
Yes.
How are you doing?
Awesome, man. I love Tuesdays.
You like Tuesdays?
It's become my favorite day.
Listen, I feel like the years are running really fast. Every time I'm with you and it's Tuesday and I'm like, yo,
Yes.
another day.
And then another 5-minute show. It feels
anyway,
like 5 minutes.
The
Let's
conversation about the seals.
Let's go. Yes.
Are we going to go into that?
No. Look, they got him in the trailer. He's on his way back to his house.
Somebody said he had to go and get some KFC, so I hope he got his KFC.
I hope so too.
Well, I don't know if it's he or she, but anyway. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And today we're focusing on chapter 9 of your amazing book, Leaning In with Dr. Marlin. That's what you're listening to right now. And this conversation is based on his book called Academia and Spirituality, where his two worlds meet.
Correct.
And you know, how long have you had this book now?
Well, I wrote it almost a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
In the next few weeks, I would start writing it a year ago.
Okay.
And it launched on the 1st of March.
1st of March.
Yeah, it's on Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
Kindle, it's on Amazon paperback,
Yeah.
Waterfront exclusive books,
Yeah.
and it's in the airport exclusive books and
At the airport.
the airport, just in
Okay.
case you're leaving.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
just
mean,
in
I
case.
am going to, you know, to see someone.
Yeah. Just pop in
so
and
I'll
so you
pop in.
yeah,
to
just
check
so
if
you
he's
know
there.
the guy on the cover.
I'll take a selfie and send it to you.
Yes, thank you so much. And then I have copies.
You have copies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we are focusing on leadership, focusing on sports, focusing on teams. How do we build teams? Even teams that you choose or teams that get chosen for you. How do you navigate around that space? That's what we're going to be talking about. But specifically looking at that and looking at leadership, we're going to be looking into family. We're going to be looking into how this country operates. So it's going to be an interesting show. As you know, it's only an hour until 7 on the dot. We're going to have to leave. So you are more than welcome to engage with us, Dr. Marlin.
Yes, the WhatsApp number 061 798 1075. Please engage. Please send your messages. 061 798 1075.
When I was reading chapter 9, it seems pretty personal as I was kind of reading it and also thinking about your childhood. In my head, I was trying to picture you playing soccer and playing rugby and cricket.
Yes.
I was like, I wonder how Dr. Marlin was when he was like, you know, a little young man, you know, in
13,
Cape Flats, 14, around
Yes.
that time. And you played 3 sports.
Yes, 3 sporting codes.
Why did you go for cricket and rugby and soccer? And which
Look-
one did you settle to?
Look, cricket was the summer thing.
Okay.
I think the soccer was all year round.
Yeah.
And the rugby was a winter thing.
Okay.
And in our neighborhood, you would have different sort of groups playing different sport.
And which one do you think were you pretty good at?
I think I would hate to say it, but I think I was pretty good at cricket.
Cricket.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
wow.
like very good at cricket.
What did you play? What position is it? Were you a batter
Well, a
or
batsman and
Okay.
and a wicket keeper.
a wicket keeper?
Yes, that's where I ended on, and I started out as a bowler.
Guess what? I never
Yeah.
played sports at school.
Is it?
Yeah, I was one of those guys who was
No, I
writing
love
up.
that.
I was writing about sports.
Okay.
So that's where my journalism comes from. So I was running the school's newspaper.
Wow.
So I was writing about basically what is happening in my school during sports event.
Yeah.
So I was the guy who was capturing pictures and writing about what
No, well
everybody's
done.
good at and doing. I
Well
missed that. It
done.
was fun. But it kind of refined my skills when it comes to journalism. So, but anyway, we're speaking about teams. We're
Yes.
speaking about leadership. We're speaking about I mean, leadership is being a concept that we're speaking about right now.
Yes.
You know.
So, yeah. Sorry. So
Yeah.
in the book,
Yeah,
I use sport
Mm-hmm.
as a metaphor
right.
to explain how we deal with things in our everyday existence.
Mm-hmm.
Up until today, we still play games.
Mm.
We play games at work.
Yeah.
We play games in our family.
Yeah.
We play games at church.
Yeah.
We play games in our social.
Yeah.
There's teams and
Yeah.
there's team sports, even happening in these settings.
And how does sports shape your life? I mean, I like I said, I didn't play sports, but I know the stuff that you learn while you're playing sports.
Yeah, look, besides teaching sport teaching me about me.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
about what my capabilities are,
Right.
about what my limitations are. I think it also made me quite aggressive to aspire
Right.
for the next level. It really came out, there's this take no prisoners attitude.
Okay.
Yeah,
What does that mean? What do you mean by that?
So you wouldn't go soft on your opponent.
Oh,
Yeah. So
was that with rugby? Obviously, you can't.
no,
be
no,
soft.
even cricket.
Oh wow.
Bowling at the guy's rib cage, or it was nasty stuff.
Wow. What
And-
about
and-
verbally though? Because I know sometimes you have to
Look,
speak down at your opponent in order to destroy them. Psychologically, you have to
Look,
mess them up before you play with them.
I would say that sort of referees and umpires would clamp down on that. But you had your ways of showing
Yeah.
the batsman, or what your intentions are,
Yeah.
or you're in a ruck
Yeah.
and you show your intentions to the opponent laying on the ball.
One of the interesting things that I love in South Africa is that every game, a lot of teams, they will be singing before they go and play a game. And I asked somebody, why do South Africans do that every single time when they play a game? They're always singing together. It's like, singing brings them together.
Yes.
And some of the songs are prayers, actually.
Look, I must tell you this one example where I was invited to play rugby in like the second team or something.
Yeah.
Many years ago. And the guys in the cloakroom would say, you see number 7, you take him down, you kill him. You see that guy and you sort him out. And that's what the discussion. And then all of a sudden, somebody says, let us pray.
Oh,
And we started praying like the Our Father. And I was like, what?
wow.
This is like real warrior stuff.
Yeah.
But you see, to get into it, that is what happens in our workplace.
Yeah.
And I spoke about it before this. There are teams that we voluntarily participate with, and there are teams that we are forced to participate with.
I mean, you got to be chosen, picked first all the time.
Look,
And I don't like that because I was the one who gets picked last when we played basketball.
yeah, I think it was because of the group,
Yeah.
and because I was sort of one of the better players.
Right. Yeah.
You choose 4 or 5 out of the 4 or 5 players, good players. You want to
Yeah.
spread them evenly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the entire match is one-sided.
Right.
And you tend to win all the time. Then it's no longer fun.
Yeah. There's no
Because-
competition.
Yes, and that is the part.
Yeah.
It's about the competition. But you see, when we look at that team dynamic and being chosen first, you sort of had to. It was expected of you to have a plan.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
expected of you
Yeah.
to sort of commandeer the guys on the soccer field, or on the cricket field.
Yeah.
You had to know what your strengths were, what your weaknesses were.
I mean, you spoke about when you guys were playing soccer, you didn't have coaches and mentors. You pretty much had to figure it yourselves.
Yeah. Look, and just for a moment, I just want to shift away from the actual sporting element.
Right.
Yeah. And look at how sport brings about that metaphor.
Right.
Yeah. And I wanna come and I wanna bring it into exactly what you are saying. That they are management teams.
Right.
That you have, in some cases, management teams when I do consulting, that look for an opportunity to speak to somebody about
Right.
about tactics,
Yeah.
about strategy. Then you have management teams that are arrogant enough to say that we don't need help.
Yeah.
We are self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Whatever we know, we know.
Yeah.
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 And you look around the board. And then you wonder why companies fail, or you do a climate study within the company, and
Right.
and the company is doing well,
Yeah.
but the
Yeah.
staff within the company,
Yeah.
they're suffering,
Yeah.
they're unhappy. You have this passive resistance,
Yeah.
and that comes all about by there are different teams at different levels. Your C-suite
Yeah.
would have teams.
Yeah.
Your operational management, that would be a team. Your sort of operational management, and in between you would have your tactical management,
Right.
functional management. So
Yeah.
there are teams on all these levels.
I mean, how do you create a team within a team? Because sometimes that comes a little bit of competition and egos rising. How do you manage that?
Absolutely. Yeah, look, and that team within a team. For example, you sit in the boardroom.
Yeah.
Right. So the CFO has got his or her assistant.
Right.
So they're a team.
Yeah.
And they're fighting for a particular piece of the cake. They are fighting for a particular piece of the budget.
Yeah.
And what happens is that there's this constant discussions and debates about why I must get this.
But I think building a team within a team sometimes is the realization of they are not my competitor. We feed from each other kind of concept.
Look, that's
for example, in sports. I mean, let's go back to sports. When you play in soccer, the defender knows that he needs the striker, he needs the midfield. They're not fighting against each other, but they know that they need to work together in order to score a goal. But sometimes within a team, you can have gangs.
Oh, absolutely. No.
Rather than actually working together, we work against each other.
No, all the time. If you particularly look into scripture, the sons of thunder, James and John, the others looked at them and thought, hey, these two guys are sort of reckless.
Right.
Jesus had a team, Peter, James, and John.
Yeah.
And he moved with them on very significant moments. And they play, and you hear their names on very significant times.
Right.
John at the cross, Peter, James, and John on the Mount of Transfiguration.
Yeah.
However, the understanding, because the leader gave a different direction.
Right.
The leader gave a direction in terms of basing it on their talents, basing it on the future plan of the business.
Right.
And that's what we fail to see.
Was it talent mixed together with character?
I think it was more character. And we come back again to character.
Yeah.
What is more important, character or skill?
I mean, because now I'm going back to how you were picked. Were you picked based on your skill, or were you picked based on character, or was it both, a double-edged sword?
Look, it was, and if we look at where they were found, they were fishermen, they were tax collectors,
classified as uneducated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he could work with them because of their character. He knew that he could work with them.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have somebody entering a team that he's that polished that he or she doesn't fit in. I'm a star on my own. I have come to make this team.
I mean, there's a saying that says, God is not looking for perfect people, but willing people.
Correct. So when we look at it at a deeper level, we need to understand that even irrespective of where you are operating within the organization, no matter where you go in the organization and to what level or team that you enter, you are only a cog in the works. You are not the works.
You're not the it.
You're not the it.
Yeah.
You're replaceable.
Yeah.
And what I find is that if sometimes I look at pastoral teams.
Right.
And there's this aura, there's this fragrance of me being untouchable.
What would you say is the downfall of teams?
Ego. Individual egos. Individual
Me,
egos.
myself, and I call it the trinity of selfishness.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's that inability.
Yeah, but don't we enable that in our companies and in our organizations? Because sometimes a promotion can create a little bit of a competition of wanting to be recognized so that you can be promoted, or money also can be an enabler of competition. I mean, you don't want that, but unfortunately, when you are in an organization and all of us wants to be seen and wants to be celebrated, that can infuse a little bit of jealousy and ego and all of this stuff.
Here's the thing about that promotion. There's two ways this promotion can go down. It can either be the dangling carrot, or it can be a stick.
Right. Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So you need to decide.
Yeah.
If it's a stick, guess what? I'm going to start beating people for that promotion.
Ooh.
If it's the dangling carrot, then it's about the preparation for the next level.
Right.
It might not come now.
But there is healthy competition, though, by the way.
All the time.
Because sometimes we think competition is bad.
No.
But actually, competition can be healthy. Because when you're competing, you're not complacent.
Yes. Here's the thing about healthy competition. There's always a huge measure of respect. there's a huge measure of love.
Right. Yeah.
I've seen people fight in MMA matches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I went through the social media, and the clip comes up.
Yeah.
And I think, how can these two men beat each other up like this? I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because I'll probably just get a chair or something and start hitting this guy.
You'll be playing SmackDown.
Yes, and my anger, my emotions will take over.
Right.
But here's what fascinated me was the moment they shook hands afterward. And they hugged each other afterward, whether it was genuine or not.
Yeah.
It was
It's very interesting that you can beat somebody up, and after that,
and in the interview, the loser, and he says it's part of sportsmanship.
Yeah.
So there must be that level of respect. There's no dirty tricks.
Yeah.
Ethical behavior, even in the heat of battle.
Yeah.
Authenticity, even in the heat of battle.
Yeah.
That needs to come through. So as you can see, we're scaffolding and we're building these blocks.
Yeah.
Because now we've moved from the individual into the collective.
How do you deal with being picked into a team that is kind of putting a lid on you and not a covering? It's like you the losing team. I'll put it in that way.
Yes.
How do you navigate around that space, knowing that you're so good at something, but now you've been picked to be part of a losing team? How do you influence that losing team into a winning team, rather than actually just going there with a better attitude?
I think it's about how you pick yourself up after the loss. It's about what is the learnings for all of us, including me.
I say this because some of us don't like where we were born and the parents that we were born into. And we blame the environment and we blame the parents, rather than actually using that realization that, this is not normal and I should do something about it to change it. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's about the justification.
Right.
We're always justifying and excusing why we cannot perform. We're always justifying, and if we look at this idea of I cannot be blamed. It's not me. That's ego right there. That is ego right there. Here's the thing about a good team. Each individual measures his or her ego and does not let the ego pollute the team environment.
Right.
I have issues. I need to go home and sit with those issues. I need to go and pack my issues before I sort of bring that contribution to the team dynamic.
What are some of the key things that makes a good team? I mean, me and you off air, we spoke about the Springboks, and why there are certain principles there and certain things that we think are really working really well for them, and that's why they're succeeding doing so well. Globally in South Africa, I think we're doing super well with sports. But what is the key thing in there, do you think?
Is that everybody's chosen is allowed to express their natural ability.
I like that.
Everybody chosen is allowed to express their natural ability.
Nobody's being formed into something that
they are not.
Naturally not.
Yes.
You're working with the natural abilities of the person.
Authenticity.
Again,
we come back to that authenticity. You know what? It's this idea that it's that I need to work on myself first. I need to do introspection, and so must each and every other person do the introspection.
Right.
Because when we sit around the table and we're a team and we're an authentic team, I can put on the table what I've contributed positively versus what I've contributed that does not have part of the positive outcome. How do I keep my negative thoughts at bay during the process?
Right.
Because I remember that can happen in winning or losing. It's about the process. And when we're in the process, there was this. Look, Jesus. There's Ascension Day coming. He goes. He ascends to heaven. There's Pentecost. There is friction between Peter and Paul. Right. Now we can sit back and we go, is it good friction or is it bad friction?
I mean, there was also a thing of, who's the greatest servant?
Correct. Remember, he walks in on them and he says, what is happening here? And the one says, who's the greatest amongst us?
The greatest amongst us.
Yes. And then he says that, look, if you're the least, then you're the greatest. Now that
the one that serves.
The one that serves. So in a team, when we start serving each other, right? When we start serving each other, the team grows collectively.
And it doesn't become about a title, because sometimes our title can limit us and make us look down on other people.
Yes. And to add on to that even more, not to look down on somebody, but if I respect you so much that I don't want to disappoint you, then I will do my best and deliver my best all the time, every time. It's that, because Jesus says to them, and he constantly comes back to them, and he chooses Peter, and they could see, the rest of the disciples could see.
I love what you said about authenticity, because I remember telling somebody, because they wanted me to be a leader of something, and because I know who I am, I told them that, hey, I'm a great helper, not a great leader. I'm very good with helping people. I'm not very good with leading people. So I'm a helper. I'm called to be a helper. I'm called to be a nurse, to help people give birth.
Yes.
To certain things that they're carrying. And the minute he knew that, then he didn't try to make me something that I'm not. So when he recognized that he's the leader, I'm the helper, together we worked really well. But when he tried to make me somebody that I'm not, then he started to realize that, I'm trying to almost turn Phineas into somebody he's not, and that's why he's struggling. I was not struggling because I can't. I was struggling because I'm not working in my own authenticity and anointing.
Correct. And if we bring that, and when we look at the Jesus scenario with his team, he didn't try and change them. He enhanced them. He enhanced the ability of them.
From fish to
fishes of men. And that development took patience. That development took care.
3 years of patience.
It took care. It took love. And then he leaves. And this is the point I was going to get to. Then he leaves. Now they left on their own. And guess what? They perpetuated this. They perpetuated this understanding amongst each other until Paul said, wait, boys, wait. Let's just stop here. Because think about it, and I said this on previous shows, if Paul did not challenge Peter, Christianity would only be in Jerusalem. It's because he challenged Peter.
We got to spread out.
We got to change this from a Judaic view, from the Judaic tradition. The circumcision thing. There were other things that were happening.
I think the realization of understanding that we are called to go, not stay. Some of us are called to stay. Some of us are called to go. I think it's recognizing that both can coexist.
Some of us are evangelists. Some of us are pastors.
Some of us are teachers.
Some of us are teachers. And when we are honest enough and we take our ego away, then we will find that we find ourselves in the place where we belong.
And we flow. When you are in your anointing, you flow. You don't struggle so
you
much.
Don't. It just comes naturally. It just comes naturally.
I want to go back to diversity, the pros and cons of diversity. If diversity is helpful in building a team, or sometimes it can be a little bit of a problem, because having people from different walks of life can be a strength. But sometimes if there is misunderstanding of each other's cultures, sometimes that can bring a team down. How do you balance that?
The best way to balance that is to get everybody's understanding as to what they think their commitment is on a shared vision.
Shared vision.
You mentioned that last week about the shared vision. It's important to bring the shared vision of the group. I desire this group. Look at the Great Commission in Matthew. In the Gospels. The Great Commission. That was their shared value. Now go out and teach. Go out and baptize. So that's the shared vision.
It's not the vision of the pastor. Is the vision of the congregation.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes we can think the responsibility lies on the pastor.
Yes.
But we're not just church members. We are disciples. So we are called to be disciples. We're not called to be church members.
True. And I like that. and I want to go one back a bit and say that you're the group of the pastors, the team of the pastoral team, now has to engage the Holy Spirit.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, because that's where they will get their direction from. And strangely enough, many a time the congregation comes and speaks to you.
Yeah.
Now, when you have those sanctified ears without an ego,
Yeah.
then you'll hear the cry of what is required in the seats.
Right. Right. Right.
You need to be attuned to that. As the leader, I need to be attuned to my team.
Right.
What are the shortcomings of my team? I cannot expect the team to perform if there's no water, if there's no food.
Yeah.
If there's none of those things that would not just make it comfortable,
Yeah.
but they need that place of rest.
I mean, John C. Maxwell says everything rises and falls on leadership. So sometimes the poor performance is not a reflection of the team, but maybe a reflection of the leader. Would you say that?
Well,
Or is both ways?
Remember I spoke about this relationship between the team and or the followers and the leader.
And the leader, there's both responsibility.
There's a responsibility on both of us.
Yeah.
Look, if
but how can the leader take accountability? Because sometimes as a leader, it's like, no, the follower cannot tell me anything. I'm in charge. They must listen to me.
That's ego.
Yeah.
That's arrogance.
Right.
And I always say, Hayden, I'm always discussing this, or not always discussing it, but it comes up often. The most dangerous combination that we get is that when you arrogant and you're ignorant.
I mean, you take it back into homes as well. How can parents listen to your children a little bit better and believe in their children?
And believe in what the children has to say.
Because sometimes child will say, hey, this happened to me, and then the parents will not believe it because they're just a child.
Because don't we ask for the spirit of discernment? Don't I as the leader want to discern?
Yeah.
And here's the thing about the leader. Yes, there will be times where the opinion of the team does not count, where I have to make the executive decision.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when the team is divided. Somebody has to make a final decision.
I must make that decision.
Yeah.
And when the leader understands not just his role, doesn't just understand the goal or the commitment for where they are going to.
Yeah.
If the leader understands that and sees that the team is not fully functional to make a decision, to stick to the commitment made at the beginning with the shared vision, then I, as the leader, need to make an executive decision. Then I must say, you know what? This is the reason why I'm making an executive decision. We are missing the shared vision.
In chapter 9, you spoke about Chinese parliament.
Chinese parliament.
The democratic side of actually being more inclusive and making sure that everybody has a voice, rather than being a dictator as a leader, but actually giving everybody a voice. How important was that when you were playing sports as a young man?
That's very important, because this is what it's about. It wasn't about rank. It wasn't about experience. It was the ability to say that, you know what, whatever decision gets made here affects me as well.
Even if, I think sometimes we think, just you give everybody a voice means you have to take everybody's voice.
No.
But I think it's about making sure that people feel heard. Even though the decision may be the decision of the leader, but the fact that you created a safe environment for people to speak is as important.
Correct.
Even if the answer is wrong, but it is important that their opinion. I mean, there's these families, every time when they make a major decision, they will call their kids at the table.
Yes.
And they will present a decision. They will be like, hey, what do you guys think?
Yes.
And then they will pray together as a family.
And that's interesting. Do we do that? Do we practice inclusivity?
Yeah.
And you know what? Somewhere inside of me, I'm asking myself the question, so how does this all come together?
Right.
How does this all come together? This discussion about a team, this discussion about the playing field.
Yeah.
Now, the effect and the impact of the playing field is determined by the attitude and preparation of the team taking the field.
Because sometimes the delay of the blessing is in the preparation.
It's in the preparation.
Because sometimes we're like, God, give me this, God, give me this. But are you prepared for what you are praying for? Because sometimes I truly believe that the delay of some of our prayers are in our preparation. We're not creating room for what we're asking God to give us. It's like, God, I want a wife, but are you a husband?
Yes.
I want a husband, but are you a wife?
Yes.
Are you in a place where you are prepared for what you're actually praying for?
Correct.
Because if you have it and you're not prepared, it's like the Israelites wanting to get to the promised land, but they had to go through a desert for a reason.
Yes.
Because if they arrived to the honey...
Yes. If they had to go straight to the promised land with those same people that left Egypt.
With the same slave mentality.
With the same attitude.
Yeah.
They weren't prepared.
A good thing would have been wasted.
And I tell you what, I've been on the side of losing teams, losing horribly.
Yeah.
But it was enjoyable moments.
Why?
Because
losing is not often enjoyable.
Here's the cool part. We gave it our best.
Yeah.
And when we gave it our best, we realized that the other team is better than us on the day.
Right.
And let's take the lessons of those moments, those lessons of negative thoughts, negative feelings, and saying that, how do I deal with this? Because at that moment is the difference between it moving from a negative feeling, moment or experience to traumatic.
Right.
Because the moment I harbor it,
the
moment I seal it, it is something that plays out in other parts of me. Sorry, I was just going to say that this life is not just about success. Imagine we were winning all the time. What lessons would there be for us?
Somebody asked me, what is the definition of success? And I think I heard this from somebody else, and they said the definition of success for a Christian is being faithful. Because at the end of the day, Jesus is going to say, well done, and my good and faithful servant. So the goal is to be faithful.
Yes. What does that mean?
What does that mean? That means showing up when you don't feel like it.
Correct. That means showing up in the face of defeat. That means showing up when all the odds are against you.
That means having sportsmanship even after you have lost.
Absolutely. 300 men gets chosen to fight a few thousand.
Yeah.
And how does he choose them? By the way they drank water out of the stream.
Woo. It's funny. As a missionary, I've experienced that a lot of times, that people will only be receptive towards the gospel based on how you enter. So if they give you something, I remember we went to Marseille and the family that welcomed us, they gave us milk, hot milk, and maguinas, and then they washed us as we were eating. And based on our interaction with the milk, that opened the door to either preach the gospel to them or not. So that was very interesting. I want to go back to the role model part, because you spoke about that in your book, the importance of having role models as a young man, to become the person that you are. Did you have a vision of who you wanted to become?
No, not at all. It was haphazard. And guess why? It was my own design.
Wow. Okay.
It was my own design. So that's why it was haphazard for 75% of my life.
What do you mean by that?
It was neither here nor there.
Okay.
It was.
So you were flowing, basically.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
On the contrary, I was knocking my head, falling down, getting up, thinking that I am the master of this existence.
Right.
It only started flowing when I surrendered. And even as I'm in the process of surrendering, I look towards the team, and there are role models within the team I find myself today.
Right.
I don't need to role model every aspect of the person.
Right.
I look at those that are when I look at my role models, I mean people that pray, and I go, wow, I want to pray like that. Yeah. Lord, allow me to pray like that.
I found it very like how do you choose a role model? Because sometimes what I've seen a lot of times, like you see somebody on TV, they have an amazing skill, and then character-wise they're fallen, that you don't look up to them anymore.
I think choosing a role model is about what resonates within me. It's not about admiring the skill. It's what resonates within me about the person.
So it's almost like revealing who you are.
It's revealing who I am. Because remember, the things that I'm struggling with are the things that I sort of transfer and I project onto other things, onto other people. And then I hear the wisdom that flows out of other people. where I go, they ask me, how was your day? And I said, well, another day, another dollar. And I hear somebody else says, wow, what a day of grace. What a day of understanding. What a day of fellowship.
Wow.
Then I go, but I was at work. But I was in communion with the Spirit. As I walk through, irrespective of the different religions at my workplace, I could still just flow because love is the overarching language.
I mean, isn't that because we view success based on the gift, not based on the fruit?
Yeah, and I like it that you come back to that all the time.
Yeah.
You know, that's sort of your...
Because, I mean, that's how I kind of pick people.
Yes.
You know, around me. It's like, you know, I told my friend, somebody asked me, how do you speak to your friends? It's like, I just have to take them to homeless people and I see how they interact with homeless people. And based on that, I will decide if you're going to be my friend or not. Because how you treat those people tells me about how you will treat me if I was in the same shoes.
Correct. And look,
I don't care how much money you have. It's just...
people have biases. People have, you know, I have biases. That when I see it reveal itself, then I'm shocked. Then I go, whoa, I didn't expect that reaction. But it's so awesome to actually just go there. To go into the parts that are difficult for me. My team allows me, and this is the beauty of the team, is the safe space. I'm a team with my significant other. She allows me the safe space. She allows me this cocoon, this haven to throw my toys. You know, where I go, you know what, it's not going well with me.
Why does everybody wants to choose a winning team? I mean, I was really bad at picking teams. I remember growing up as a kid, when we watched sports, I always picked a winning team because of fear of disappointment. How do you deal with disappointment when you're part of a losing team and turn that process into something beautiful?
Interesting. The only time you're disappointed is when you have expectation.
But you should have expectations.
How about just to enjoy it? How about being part of the team at the highest level and just love what you are doing? This is my craft. So I want to love this.
The goal is to enjoy, and maybe the win is the byproduct of
it's a byproduct of it. If I look at my team at church, we fall to the enemy. Maybe not all at once, but there are team members that fall to the enemy. Is it my job to discourage? Is it through judgment? Is it my job to wag the proverbial finger and say, I told you so? So that for me is important. That when I am part of the team, that there are those that tap me on the shoulder. You know, those that says, don't worry, I've been there. That makes the team great. That makes the team. I don't know if you notice when you watch certain programs about teams, you find that last 10 minutes before the team takes the field, even the coach walks out. Because now it's time for the team to have those discussions.
Doesn't that process build character though?
Absolutely, it builds character.
And getting up again. I mean, it's like a child learning how to walk.
And here's the role model. Marlon is part of that team. It's his first time out. It's his debut. He's part of that team. He doesn't even need to take the field. Just the fact that he's with him in the cloakroom.
And I think there's also the human side of it, because sometimes we think human beings are Superman. They are immune to pain and disappointment. And I think sometimes for me, I look up to people who are trying and failing rather than people who never fail at all, because as a human being, you are going to fail. And sometimes when I say this is my role model, I say they are a role model based on their humanity. And you know, those people who only celebrate and they are part of a team when the team is winning, and when the team is losing, they run away.
I don't want to know you. I only wear that t-shirt for them. And guess what? It happens everywhere.
But how do you stay committed to the losing team, which is in the process of winning?
It's about the vision. Can you imagine the disciples after Jesus' crucifixion? How despondent were they? How they were distraught. They were lost. They were confused.
Wasn't that part of the refinement though?
Absolutely.
Because sometimes you think you're losing, but the losing is actually the building.
But here's the interesting thing, because what you are saying is, so you go, and that is part of being with the losing team. Those are the elements of the losing team. Do you think, so they scattered to the point that he had to go and fetch those two boys that were on the way to Emmaus. Those two disciples on the way to Emmaus. He had to go and fetch them. He had to go and whisper in their ear and say, come on, boys. Man. You know, this is not all over. You talk about this Jesus, he's not gone. How many times in a losing team do we find true leaders rising?
I mean, Jesus going to the cross, it looked like he was losing.
They thought he was
when
losing.
He was surrendering.
Yes.
You know, because oftentimes people think surrendering is basically
losing,
weak,
or giving up.
It's giving up.
It's
but
not.
It was interesting with Jesus that in his surrender, in his losing, he was actually gaining.
Now this is the part with that I want to walk away from sport.
Yes.
As the analogy.
Yeah.
Because sport is ego-driven. Sport is about winning. Sport is about titles. Now we're coming into this domain of spirituality, and we're going to take it from here on out into our next show. And to do that preparation is to say that now we're looking at the team that is ready. The team now becomes family. And they're now ready to enter kingdom.
You're reminding me of The Chosen now, and how Jesus rehabilitated the disciples for 3 years and how they became close and became a family. Would you say that's important for, a thriving team, is relationships?
Absolutely.
Because if me and you, we did this, before we started this show, we're like, we need to have a chemistry.
Yes. We needed to hook up at least 2 or 3 times.
Because we understood that it's not just about coming here and talking, it's actually about relationships.
Yes.
And it's a relationship that's gonna carry this show, not just our gifts and talents.
Absolutely. This is the one thing about relationships in a team, is to be open and honest. Is to share your view with love, but openly. Again, that word, authentically.
Yeah.
Because you need to understand, if you cannot see my strengths, you need to understand that these are my strengths.
Some people don't take correction very well. How can we help with that?
Ego related, eh? That's ego related. And you're going to find that you're going to find that no matter what happens, the ego speaks about the psychological survival of a person.
Right. My friend told me that, Phineas, I don't mind correction. I just don't like being corrected in public, because now you're shaming me. You're not uplifting me up. So I realized when I isolate him and not criticize but correct him in private, he's actually more receptive than when I do it in public, because in private I'm covering him, I'm honoring him. That's how he sees it.
And that's how he sees it.
But on the other side, it's like, if you correct me in public, that's kind of shameful. It puts him in a place where I feel disrespected. So there's the ego side, but there's also the honoring side of it. I guess.
Can you imagine that friend of yours taking, just for a moment, being in the shoes of Peter when Jesus rebuked him? Would he pack up his bags? Would I pack up my bags and say,
"Get behind me, Satan"? That's very strong.
That's strong words. Do I go, bugger this, I'm packing my bags, I'm out. Because guess what? You humiliated me in front of my friends.
Yeah. My friends goes to see who I really am.
Is such a person worthy of the team?
Yeah. We care a lot about reputations. We don't want to be ridiculed or feel, we all have trauma, I guess.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we want it to be protected rather than being exposed.
We want to be loved, but our perception of love is different. Our perception of love is different to what God's love is.
He disciplines those he loves
all the time.
I feel the closest to God when he disciplines me.
When he chastises you, and he gets you to in line.
Actually, this is important, because sometimes when you feel disciplined by God, you feel like you're being punished. But being disciplined by God, the pruning process, says a lot about how close and how much he loves you. Because the one who loves you will correct you.
All the time.
Those who don't.
The one who loves you has the responsibility to correct you. It's not just once to correct you.
Yeah.
Because he loves you.
How do you do that in a team, though? When maybe the striker is not doing a good job, everybody's doing a good job. Do you isolate them or do you correct them in public?
Correct them in front of the team.
Yeah.
Because guess what? 9 out, all the disciples present. And Thomas asks, let me feel your hands.
I like Thomas.
So he's the guy that got up.
The brave Thomas.
How many others sat there and went, I wonder if those are genuine.
Yeah,
I wonder if those are real. How many guys?
I call him honest Thomas, not doubting Thomas. I know a lot of people say he was doubting, but I think he was honest.
Yes.
His humanity was met. And I think sometimes even Jesus left those holes for him because he knew that I have this guy called Thomas, which is my other name, by the way.
Okay. So it was about this feeling.
Yeah.
How uncomfortable I felt. How uncomfortable and yes, but do we have place? Do we have time? Do we have a place?
But you spoke about safety.
For human feelings. Psychological safety is something else. Psychological safety is that Phineas, the difference between Phineas, you were a bad guy, versus Phineas, your behavior wasn't so good, eh? Your behavior was bad. The behavior was bad, not Phineas.
So you're separating the behavior from my identity.
From who you are.
Because sometimes we think I'm the problem, but actually, I'm just, going through the problem.
Absolutely.
Sometimes when I tell people that, I'm against people say I'm a drug addict. I am a drug addict. I mean, you speak in sickness over your life.
Absolutely.
By saying that I am
because
this.
Remember,
how about you say my name is Phineas and I struggle with
abusing narcotics.
Because the minute you put anything you put after I am,
so we must be careful.
It's a declaration. It's a prophetic thing that you're speaking upon yourself. I said this at an NA meeting and people were a little bit looking at me funny, but I think it's very important.
It's very
and we don't label ourselves as problems.
Yeah, it's very important to understand, because when I walk around with the problem and I am the problem, I become difficult to forgive. I become difficult to repent.
And how do you heal when you see yourself as a problem?
Because then I must rid myself. Because if I want to rid myself of the problem, I must get rid of myself.
You just went into it. I think that's why even suicide is such a thing, because you want to get rid of the problem.
You want to get rid of...
You have to get rid of yourself because you identify yourself
because
as
you are the problem.
Wow.
So now we grappling with these with a me identity as part of a team, as part of a community, as part of a church. How does my church see me?
How do you keep your authenticity though in a team? How do I remain Phineas and don't lose myself in a team? Because sometimes people think a team, everybody has to think the same and behave the same way and look the same.
It's just about being honest. And how do you maintain that authenticity? As by consistently proving that these are my principles, these are my beliefs, these are the things that I won't budge from.
This is what I bring to the table.
And guess what? You're going to find the most amazing thing happens. People said, I expected that of Phineas. Because he's that type of guy. He won't let things slip. He won't let things slide. So now it becomes, that is his character. So if you want the truth, there's Phineas.
Yeah.
Phineas doesn't mess around, and guess what? He still keeps you. He still honors you.
Yeah.
He still honors you.
So being part of a team doesn't mean you have to be the same.
No. I must say this, and it's going to come up next week again. I simply dislike it when a pastor wants the successor, and he says, this is a man after my heart. And then I go, but your heart is not important in this process.
You know where I learned this? I learned this between is it Saul and David?
David, yeah.
When he wanted to give him his war armor.
Yes.
And David was like, this is not who I am.
It's not who I am.
This is not how I fight.
Absolutely.
And David has to embrace himself and his authenticity, that, no, this is how I fight my battles.
Yes.
And I'm not going to fight them like you. I'm going to fight them the way God has raised me to fight them.
Absolutely.
And I think that is very important, that our successor that does not have to look like us.
It doesn't have to think like us. It doesn't have to, because guess what?
Yeah.
Peter denied him. Then he mends Peter, and then Peter becomes the rock. How crazy is that? I mean, if that's out of sorts, and that's why I want to end tonight before I give the socials, I just want to end with this where I constantly say, I thank God that he's not a man. Because if he's not a man, he's not fickle towards me. And about my behavior. So, you want to get in touch with me? It's Dr. Marlon Hoffman, Dr. space Marlin space HOFFMAN. Please get me on YouTube, on all the socials. My mobile number 073 011 5617. Please make contact. Thanks Venus, thanks Jeremiah, thanks Michelle Hector, thanks Beverly for your messages. We really love it. And you guys were just saying that you appreciate the topic. I know we got off to a slow start. I know we started off by sport, but it set the perfect premise.
I love what Michelle said here about failure. Failure is an opportunity to learn
the lessons.
You know, because
Thanks,
if we
Michelle.
don't fail, we don't learn.
Michelle is part of our Bible study group. Well done, Michelle.
We have some loyal people in this show. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, it's time for us to love and leave you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Leaning In with Dr. Marlon. Every Tuesday from 6 until 7 on the dot, we're just having a conversation about Dr. Marlon's book called Academia and Spirituality, where his two worlds come together. So yeah, that's why you're hearing us talk a lot. Unfortunately, not playing a lot of music here because we're just trying to get some few points across. This is to be continued, Dr. Marlon, because I think there's more in this. This was basically a rehearsal, an introduction to what we're going to be carrying.
We're only digging the trenches. The building is coming.
So thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you next week, same time, same place, right here on CCFM. God bless you.